Loot boxes, loot boxes, loot boxes. The big loot box question may be getting an answer. So, the FTC is investigating loot boxes, being led by a senator by the name of Maggie Hassan, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. She prompted the investigation during a Senate subcommittee hearing, and the FTC is going to be investigating loot boxes. So, this is a big, interesting problem for the gaming industry. Obviously, everyone, I think, hates loot boxes, me included. We all hate loot boxes. We all hate microtransactions. Even the cosmetic-only ones. Sorry, guys. So, where does this lead us? The government is getting involved in gaming. So, this is probably going to get political. I try and avoid all political discussions as best as I can on this channel, but I think it's inevitable that it's going to probably happen at some point during this video, and by that point I mean it's happening now. So, the government is getting involved with gaming. We already have the ESRB. That's fine. You know, I think the ESRB, as useless as it is now, is necessary for the gaming industry. So, loot boxes, though, need to be addressed. But the government doing so, I'm not sure that is the right move. Yes, I hate loot boxes. In the ideal situation, the gaming industry would regulate itself, and loot boxes eventually would be hated enough that they would just die out on their own. The problem being, though, that's not happening. It's not. As much as everybody says they hate loot boxes and they hate microtransactions, there's a reason this is happening. Loot boxes and microtransactions aren't slowing down. Activision just made an absolute boatload of money off Candy Crush in the past year or two. EA's probably raking as well with stuff like Star Wars Battlefront and their righteous pile of games that they have. So, Madden Ultimate Team being the big one there, by the way. But the problem being, though, is that once the government gets involved, you have to wonder, where is it going to end? And how much damage is it going to do to the gaming industry as a whole? Let's say, I think best case scenario for this, if the government gets involved, is they make loot boxes, A, show the odds for the rarity of the item you get. That is something that needs to happen, and I'm honestly surprised hasn't really happened more often. Loot boxes need to have their odds displayed, and I think loot boxes need to be put on the ESRB at the very minimum if a game contains loot boxes and microtransactions. Now, the big question: are loot boxes gambling? I personally, from the way I understand gambling, I say no. Are loot boxes gambling? I think no, because if you buy a loot box, you are going to get something. You're going to get something. Obviously, it can't be redeemed for real-world money unless it's Counter-Strike, but that already got shit-canned a good year or two ago, I believe. Maybe a little bit longer, but past a year or two for sure. But if you buy a loot box, you are getting something. Is it something worth what say you spent $1 on this loot box? Is it worth it? That's all up to you. Is your common item worth your $1? If you get a rare item, what's it worth to you? Is it worth $30? Is it worth $40? Then maybe you won. It's all subjective, and that is the real problem. You don't have a dollar amount that can be put on what this common item is. What's this uncommon item? Legendary, epic. The list goes on. What's it worth to you? You spend $1 on this loot box, and you get something. What is that something worth? Did you lose? Did you come out on top? Who the hell knows? No one's going to say. So that's where I think loot boxes technically aren't gambling. It's very subjective in that the item that you get is worth whatever the hell you want it to be. it's worth what everyone else thinks it is. That's where I think loot boxes and gambling become a problem when you try and say they are for sure gambling. I don't think so. I don't think they are gambling. I think they are scummy. I think they are a scourge on the gaming industry. But are they gambling? I don't think so. I do not believe loot boxes, by how I understand gambling to be, are gambling. Are other microtransactions scummy as well? I think everybody will agree. Yes, they are. They're specifically made to target the casuals, the more laid-back gamers who don't have a ton of time on their hands. Loot boxes, are they targeting children? I think we all know the unfortunate answer to that question to be probably. Not yes, not no, probably. Because I know I haven't spent a cent on loot boxes in ages, and I think a lot of people my age aren't spending anything on them either. Have I spent money on the Fortnite Battle Pass? Yes. I did spend money on the Fortnite Battle Pass. Yes, I have spent money on V-Bucks. So I'll have a seat around the AA table here. Yes, I did enjoy Fortnite enough to dip a little bit for a skin. Guilty as charged, but it wasn't a loot box. I knew what I was getting, and I agreed to spend this amount of money on this set number of V-Bucks. It wasn't gambling, it was a microtransaction. Guilty as charged. I haven't spent anything on Save the World. So, loot boxes, ideally, I think obviously the best case scenario would be for the gaming industry to regulate itself and move on from the trend, but it's just not happening. Companies are going to try and find ways, like we saw with Destiny 2, to try and twist the knife and get people to spend money on those microtransactions and on those loot boxes. And loot boxes, yes, they are scummy. Yes, they are, like I said, a scourge on this industry, but I don't believe they're gambling, and I don't believe the government getting involved is going to be the right answer in the long run. I think it's going to do more damage than it'll help. I think it's, if they get into loot boxes and microtransactions, where do they stop? Do they simply make them list the loot boxes and microtransactions included on an ESRB rating? I think if the government gets involved, that is the best case scenario. But I don't think it's going to stop there. I see a lot of people that want these things outright banned, and I don't think that is the right move. I think there needs to be awareness raised about them, and a lot of people need to better understand what these things are and what they operate as. And for the love of God, if you are a parent, do not let your kids spend money on loot boxes. Maybe one here or there, yes, maybe, but please, for the love of God, watch what your child is doing. For all of us in the gaming industry, we don't want to see the government take our games away. So that's my 2 cents. Well, probably more than 2 cents because this video is pushing 9 minutes long. So loot boxes, to me, as I understand them, they are not gambling, but I know everybody's going to have a different opinion on it, and there's 1,000 ones going around. I think if you spend money on something and you're guaranteed to get something in return, I don't think it's gambling. But, of course, like I said, what monetary value do you assign to what you get from a loot box is where the big question is raised. Did you come out on top? Did you lose? Did you waste money? It's all subjective and up to whoever is spending the money. Thanks for watching.